So, first of all, big welcome back to our dear Ari, who has joined us back, Baruch Hashem, back here. It's always good to have Ari back, Baruch Hashem. Shkoy for joining us. We've been waiting you. Since the beginning, we were waiting. When is Ari coming back? Baruch Hashem. So, today, just want to spend a few minutes. Yesterday, we did the sugya of Erev Yom Kippur. We did the halachas that are negayah to Erev Yom Kippur, specifically the halachas of eating on Erev Yom Kippur, what constitutes eating, drinking, and the like. We spoke a little bit about mikvah, mincha, vidoi, sudam of sekes. Now I just want to go into the ikka halachas of Yom Kippurim. So Be'ez Hashem, tomorrow we can start another complete new sugya, which will be either something to do with Hilchos Sukkos or Dalet Minim or something along those lines. Be'ez Hashem. So we start with the pasuk. That's the essence where everything comes from, because we have to know everything comes in the Torah. Parshas Achrei Mos, Vayikra Tezayin, pasuk Lamed Aleph, talking of course about Yom Kippurim. Shabbos Shabboson Hilochem. It's the Shabbos Shabboson. It's the greatest day. Shabbos is the greatest day of the week. Shabbos is the greatest day of the week. So Yom Kippur, Dave, is the greatest of all Shabbosim. That's what Yom Kippur is. Which, by the way, means it has all the halachas of Shabbos. That means all the malachas that are also on Shabbos are going to be also on Yom Kippurim, even if it falls during the week. That's just Amazon. It's not like a regular din Yom Tov. On Yom Tov, there are certain times you could do certain things that you cannot do on Shabbos, like cook. You're allowed to cook on Yom Tov, you can't cook on Shabbos, right? On Yom Kippur, obviously that cannot be done. There are many, many halachas that, of course, we're not going into at this moment of time, especially with someone with children. What do? You want to give the little kids food, you've got to heat it up before Yom Tov, before Shabbos, just like you normally do for Shabbos. So continues the pasuk, and this is what we're getting to today. V'inisem es nafshoy seichem chukas olam. I think the ArtScroll translate this as you should afflict your souls. Afflict. V'inisem es nafshoy seichem chukas olam. Now, from this pasuk we learn that there are something called the Chamisha Enum. There are 5 things or 5 afflictions that come from this pasuk. That means there are 5 things on Yom Kippur that we are not allowed to do, which are an Issa D'Oraisa from this pasuk. The Gemara darshans how we get each one from everywhere. We're not going to go into that. Let me just go into them in a very quick way just to understand them. The first one, of course, is eating and drinking. Achila v'shtia, that is asa. Number 2 is, of course, rechitza. Rechitza means anointing or washing, rinsing, whatever. We'll try to talk a little bit about that. Rechitza is washing. Sicha is anointing, rubbing oils and creams and all these sorts of things in, apart from obviously the issue of the cream itself, which is a problem on Shabbos, which would be memachik, which is smoothing, which will be also every Shabbos. Here you have an additional issa called sicha, which is anointing or rubbing, whatever you want to call it. Ne'ila sandal, which is, of course, you cannot wear shoes, which maybe if you have a minute we'll discuss what that means, and tashmish hamita, marital relations. Let's talk now about number 1, eating and drinking. Now, of course, we know we cannot eat, we cannot drink on Yom HaKippurim. So what do people do when it comes to brachas? So, for example, there's a halacha everybody knows, Moshe Rabbeinu, David HaMelech, Shail, and the Rishonim, who exactly was masakin, mei brachas b'chol yom. There's an inyan, there's a halacha that a person has to make 100 brachas every single day. On Shabbos, we're missing certain brachas because we don't daven such a long Shmoneh Esrei. We have a much shorter Shmoneh Esrei, less brachas. We try to make it up. We have benching a bit more. We try to make it up by having snacks and stuff like that as well. Sometimes maybe yotzu with the brachas of Haftorah or whatever. When it comes to Yom Kippur, you're not eating anything. You're not even going to the bathroom as much. So where are you getting your Meir brachas? So because of that, people smell besomim. People pass around, they smedrish besomim. So you have to know 2 things. Number 1, be careful, something called the bracha she'ena tzricha. That means, don't make a bracha that's unnecessary. So if you give your besomim, and you make a borim and a besomim, whatever it is that you're making on whatever it is that they're giving you, because obviously it depends on what it is that you're having to what bracha that you make, be careful you don't make too many brachas. Meaning if they give it to you now and in 10 minutes you get it again, you can't make another bracha. I sat in the same place 10 minutes ago, I made a bracha on this, I can't make another bracha on it. If it's been a couple of hours, or you left the building, or there was a break, for example, right, they make a hafsaka, they make a break between, Musaf, right before Musaf for Tekei Shofar, and you smelled it afterwards, that will be okay. But still be careful how many times you make a bracha, just be careful on that. That's number 1. Number 2, you also have to know, it's midas chasidus, many of the achronim bring down not to smell anything, especially if you don't make a bracha on it, right? And this is brought down in the Magen Avraham and Tafresh base, the Eli Rabbah, the Chai Odom, the Mishnah Berurah brings it also. It's a midas chasidus not to smell things. I know people are running around smelling things, so if you're doing it for a bracha, kenzan. But if there's no bracha to be made, it's some nice smelling things, again, is it mutter? Yes, it's mutter. Should you try, if you can, not to? Yes, you should also. Why? Because the Torah said, the Torah says you're meant to afflict yourself. It's a day that you're meant to afflict yourself from all personal pleasures. And here you are trying to be moist of pleasures. So again, if you're making a bracha and you're doing it for brachas, good. If you're not doing it for brachas and you don't need it, try to stay away from it. But again, if you need it, it's machazik you daven better, concentrate better, beautiful. Go for it. Again? Well, that's what I'm talking about. That's another shayla. That's Hilchos brachas. We're not going to Hilchos brachas now. Ask the local Orthodox rabbi if he makes brachas, but if it's real, not real, where's it come from? The makar, not makar, not for now. Now I just want to get to the ikki side of what we're doing. Moving on, Rabbi Yisai, you are allowed to touch food on Yom Kippur, especially if you're giving it to kids. Touching food, shalod tzorech klal, stam touching food is actually osa. Because of course it's muktzah, you can't do anything with it, you're not allowed to eat it. That's the reason why, unless you are feeding children, or you're preparing, a woman, for example, at home is preparing, which you obviously you're not allowed to prepare on Yom Kippur for Yom Kippur. I'm not talking about that, but whatever it may be, there is a mokom to be careful of touching food. Rechitza, Rabbi Yisai, that means Shulchan Aruch paskins, by the way, rechitza means washing. Now, of course, we don't have a shower. Even the Chassidim don't go to mikvah on Yom Kippur because you're not allowed to wash yourself with anything. Shulchan Aruch says you can't even dip your finger in a cup of water. You're not allowed to, of course, if you go to the bathroom, you can wash your hands, obviously the small minimum amount that you need. Negel vasa, obviously, until the knuckles, that we know. But Akaponim, stam to wash yourself is going to be problematic. If you have something on your eyes, when you wake up in the morning, you want to get rid of it, or put a bit of water just to get rid of it, that's okay, that's not a problem whatsoever. That's not a problem, but you can't wash out your mouth in the morning either. You can't fill your mouth, for sure not with mouthwash, and even with water, for sure not brushing your teeth, that's a vada not. You also cannot do that over there in that case. If a person poshut can't daven in the morning, is it istanis? Poshut cannot daven without washing his face in the morning. Could be there's a mokum to be makel for a person to do that. The lahiris nosin is a tshuva. If a person has a headache on Yom Kippur and he knows that if he washes his face it relieves him from the headache, then there is a mokum for a person to wash his face to stop the headache in that case over there. By the way, talking about sicha, anointing and rubbing, which means any type of oils, creams and things like that, even if it's not also because of mamachik, meaning it's not thick, because if it's thick it's also on regular Shabbos, but in a situation where I'm not over on mamachik, it's very, very like it's oil, I'm not allowed to do that on Yom Kippur, that's called sicha. Many of the questions that Olam asks is, are you allowed to put on deodorant? The answer is, great question, Azi. The great question, Nissi's question. Nissi and Azi jointly asked this Gavaldiga Kasha. Beautiful question. Answer, mutter. No problem. To put on, obviously not a roll-on that's got a stick deodorant, because obviously you can't do that on Shabbos either. That's mamachik, that's something else. But a spray deodorant, no problem whatsoever. What's that? Cologne, no. But insect repellent, also an interesting shaila that Olam asks sometimes, to spray yourself with a mosquito spray to prevent yourself from getting mosquitoes at night, that would be okay. Ni'ilas sandal is of course wearing shoes. So by the way, it's interesting, there are 4 different shitas of what exactly is the Issa. There's the Rif and the Rosh, that they paskin only leather is Asa. If it's not leather, then it's not Asa. As I paskin the Rif and the Rosh. The Bala Ma'or has a very interesting shita. The Bala Ma'or shita is anything that protects your foot is going to be Asa on Yom Kippur. Not leather, nothing to do with leather. Bala Ma'or doesn't mention a word about leather. The Bala Ma'or says anything that protects your foot is going to be Asa. If you look at Rashi and Tosfos, they learn Dafka only leather and wood is going to be Asa. That's how they learn Maskonos and Gemara. And there's a Mordecai Tosefta that says even cloth, even a shmata is actually Asa in that case. How do we paskin? So the Shulchan Aruch paskins, he brings Be'etzem, like the Rif and the Rosh, the first shita, that only leather is a problem. Non-leather is going to be mutter. There's a tshuva in the Ponimiris Chelik base, Chav Ches, that he says that if you cannot feel the floor, then it's Asa. As I pass in the Ponimiris, if you cannot feel the floor, then it is Asa, and it's also mashma from the Chasam Sofer this way, in Orchaim Tofei Shedalit Shar Tshuva Tovkuf and Dalit also, that if you have to go barefoot, you have to be able to feel the foot. I don't want to go too much into this because I'm going to get in trouble, but now the kasha is, are you allowed to wear things like Crocs and slippers on Yom Kippur? Again, according to the Rif and the Rosh that we mentioned before, no problem. It's not leather. Leather shoes is Asa. This is not leather. But according to to what we said from the Bala Ma'or, and according to the Ponimiris, some Sofer and others, if you cannot feel the floor, which you cannot generally do that, Ari, then it might be a problem, and a person should taka be machmeh and not do that, because otherwise he's comfortable for ket. I don't know about you, but when I go home, I like to wear Crocs. For ket, it's geschmack. I don't have Crocs, but I'm just saying, theoretically, if I would, but I used to, whatever. Point is, it's very good. Shabbos is a big shaila because Oinik Shabbos, it's Oinik Shabbos, covered Shabbos, not covered Shabbos. Which one wins? Covered Oinik. We spoke about it once before. But I'll go upon him. Halacha l'maisa, I want to be clear, otherwise I'm getting massive trouble. I'm going to get emails later on today. Oh, the whole world. I'm not talking about the world. The world's gewaldic. We love the world. Everyone's doing amazing. However, you're right. We paskinate the Shulchan Aruch. The Shulchan Aruch brings down that the mice we paskinate the Rif and the Rosh, which means Ari that we only paskinate that leather is the problem. Non-leather, no problem. But there is a mokum, Panimiris, some Sofer, many others as well. Bala Ma'or for sure. To feel the floor. To feel the floor. I had these sandals that I use for Yom Kippur and for Tisha B'Av, that you mamish feel it. There's a very thin sole. You mamish feel it. I'm not talking about the level of the Heilige Vishna where he wore the gold shoes. Where it was, there was no sole b'chlal. So everyone saw him wearing gold shoes because Malchus, Vision is Malchus. But the Maisa, there was no sole underneath because he wanted to feel the floor. But that was the whole year he wanted to do that. And then I could put him over there. So Rabbi said that's the halacha in that case. Let's try to remember that the reason why we do these things is obviously because the Torah says so, but also because it gives us a certain inos nafshasechem, it gives us a certain affliction. So that Be'ez Hashem, when we do that, Siyata D'Shmaya, as we say in the beginning of Yom Kippur, before Kol Nidrei, we say a very important tefillah called Tefillah Zakah. My Rosh Hashiva, Rev Sheinberg Zatzal, every year used to tell us the same thing. Be careful. Give yourself time to say Tefillah Zakah. Say it in English in the Art Scroll. It is one of the most beautiful tefillahs. If you say it with meaning, you'll be moichel everyone, you'll be makabel the tiniest, you'll be makabel each of the Chamisha Nun that we just mentioned, and what they should do for the things that you may have done throughout the year. It is kedai to have time. You're right, the sign says when Kol Nidrei is going to start. And that's of course when everyone's going to be here. Try to be a bit before. You need at least 10-15 minutes to say Tefillah Zakah, at least, minimum, with kavanah, in English, with meaning. It's a real beautiful tefillah. The Rebbeinu give us siyata d'shmaya, that the tiniest and everything else that we do, Shetaka, help us to do tshuva, me'ahava, that Be'ez Hashem we come out of Yom Kippur with that kedusha v'tahara b'siyata d'shmaya. Have a wonderful day.